Yo, what's up? My name is FLUCC, and today I'm going to show you how I made my latest track, Magic Chrome Dog from Space. It was released 3 weeks ago on Gabber Industries Berlin. I really like this track, and I thought I'd make like a little video to show how it's made, give you some insight into the production process. Maybe you can learn something from it, or it's just interesting, or whatever. Yeah, here we go. Here we are inside the project. And I think how I'm going to do it is I play through the track section by section and introduce all the elements that are there and kind of explain them a little bit, maybe show how they are made. Yeah, let's go. Start with the intro. We have some nice atmospheric soundscapes coming down here from this city. Maybe I should shut up while the music's playing. Okay, maybe that's enough for now. We can already look at some things here. So there's these little 4 bars. There's like a little prelude thing going on here where I introduced the main synth already. And this here is kind of the main synth theme of the track. The track is made in F, so we just alternate between the F and the C. This sound, I made it in wavetable. It's a pretty basic sound. I just have 2 oscillators with some FM modulation here and a sub oscillator. But basically the main thing is happening here. Like I use both of the LFOs to modulate a bunch of things about the sound. This way it gets like this sort of wobbly movement. And actually what I did to achieve this is I modulated the LFOs with each other, which you can see here. Like the LFO1 modulates the rate of LFO2, and LFO2 modulates the rate of LFO1. So they both modulate each other, and this creates this sort of back and forth and like go faster, go slower of the sound. So it has this nice movement to it based on these LFOs. Down here, I don't quite remember. I think it's a recording of the synth above, and I just used it and pitched it around a little bit and played with the warp mode to get the sound like this. I think maybe it's also reversed actually. If I look at this tail here before. So I don't remember which notes this is, but it's definitely from the synth above, and I just reversed it and did some things with it to have like an extra layer here, and I think together they sound kind of nice. This one also has a bunch of reverb, which I did here in this return track. And then there are already some drums coming in, like very slightly. One more thing about the synth. You can see here, like I automate a lot of things. For me, I think automation is just a way of bringing life into the sound. So it's, I think, a really important thing for me to do always, to bring a lot of movement to the sound. So for example, here I have an automation on the filter, and I have an automation on the sustain level. So you can hear back here already the sound is starting to die down a little bit. Here it's a high sustain. And here the sustain is low. You can see it also being like, yeah, moving here. And stuff like this. There's also a little automation on the tone of the sub oscillator. And one more thing I'm doing actually is on the group, I have a resonator. So this makes up a lot of the color also of the sound. And I have this delay, which is set to repitch mode. That's basically, this mode decides like how the delay reacts if you change its timing while it's playing. The repitch mode, basically, if you shorten the delay time, it will pitch up the delay signal, like the wet signal, to achieve this shortening of the time. And if you lengthen the delay, you pitch it down. So this can get like some really interesting pitch effects in the delay actually. So if you listen here carefully at exactly this point, you can hear how the delay is being pitched up. There's like this, and that's kind of cool. That's just a little bit of extra detail to the sound, which I think is really nice. Also, there are in the intro already some drums, just basically some basic hi-hats kind of thing. Like this is just a 909 right, but I pitched it kind of down and yeah, put this one a little bit off. Sounds kind of nice. And there's already the snare being introduced also. This snare I actually really like. It's just from this build-up loop, which we're gonna get to in a second. I found this loop and I thought like the snare sounds super nice, so it's actually just the main snare of the track. It's like super snappy and has a nice tonality to it. I just put some reverb, some filtering. I filtered in slowly. You can see like the filter is being opened throughout the intro. So yeah, that brings it in, like introduces it in a nice way. And also right in the beginning, I have this one already playing. It's like a little effect thing. I made an operator. It's basically just a sine wave being modulated by a white noise in the operator, just to make like a nice noisy texture, but with a bit of tonality. And you can hear that later. I put the sine wave to 350 hertz, which is approximately the F, and I put it to fixed mode. So this way I can play around with the pitch just in an automation, which you can later hear I'm also doing. Yeah, it's a pretty simple sound, just the white noise here, the sine wave here. That's about it. I have this one macro, which I called Noisify, that's basically just adjusts the level of the sine wave and the noise. So you can kind of hear the sine wave comes in and then goes out again. Yeah, just some more automations. Okay, let's continue maybe with the build-up. And there comes the drop. What happens in the build-up? The kick is already being introduced, and the elements from the intro sort of fade away to set the stage for the kick drum, basically, for the drop. One thing that's now more obvious, it was actually already there in the intro, but is this little vocal here. I have this from a recording from an Instagram reel, actually. It was Björk talking in an interview about ambitions as a artist, and I thought she was saying kind of cool things, and I really liked the sound of her voice, so I sampled that. Actually, this is the original.
A very funny rule. I have learned a lesson that if you don't please.
Yeah, so I thought it sounded really nice, and I'm using it here. As you see, there's a hell lot of automation going on. And what I'm doing actually is I'm taking this sound down here, just a detuned saw wave sound, and I'm using that to vocode this vocal. So this way it gets some nice tonal flavors. And I'm automating the dry wet of the vocoder. So here you can hear it. You can hear the sound of the synth coming through the vocal, which sounds really cool. That's this thing here. You just set up like an external carrier for the vocoder and then select the track you want to vocode from. In case you don't know what a vocoder does, it basically takes one signal, uses it to modulate a bunch of small bandpass filters, and then puts these bandpass filters on the sound that you want to modulate. So basically, the sound you want to modulate will gain the character of the sound that you're modulating with. If that made sense? I hope so. There's also some more things going on, like I'm putting a bunch of reverb, delay, some overdrive, some filtering, blah 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 blah. That's basically the vocal. And there's this really heavy sidechain here, which actually makes like a cool stutter sound. Anyway, whatever, that's about the vocal. Also in the build-up, we hear now the full snare build-up loop that I talked about earlier, where I got the snare sound from. I just think it sounds super cool and snappy. You can see like I pitched it up 2 semitones to make it fit to the key of the track, especially with kick drums and snares, because they have a very tonal character to them. Often it can be nice to pitch them to a certain note that you want, and often the root note of the track. How you can do this actually in Ableton, just simply with the EQ. You take your sound and you look at the spectrum and you find sort of the peaks that make up the characteristic tonality. And if you see down here in the bottom left corner, you get this sort of info window where you see at the position that your mouse is currently hovering above, you get the information about the frequency, the gain at this frequency, and also the note of this frequency. So you can see down here you have like a G, or up here there's a C sharp. And so this way, when you play a sound here and you have the analyzer on, you can find the characteristic frequency and just put your mouse there and you will see the note that it is down here, which can be nice to pitch things. Yeah, so I use this to pitch it to, from E flat to F. When I'm doing this, I'm using the warp mode to keep it on time. And I'm using this one-shot mode. For beats warp, there's 3 different modes here, how the warping can happen. Because Beats basically takes like small chunks of the audio and loops them, or whatever, does something with them to create the warping effect. And in this mode, it just plays the chunk once, which can be very nice for drums to retain like the attack and the rhythm. And you can actually then here choose how long that little slice should be played. So this is a really nice way, if you set it to transient mode, to bring out the transients, or actually like shape the transients and cut the tail. So you can hear like this makes it very tight if you play around with it. Can be a nice thing for drums if you want to make them very transient based. Then I have some more ambience here. These are some nice effects from Plexus sample pack. I have them in a group. I have another vocoder which is being modulated by a noise, actually, which can be nice to get some noisy textures that I bring in here. Yeah, run it through OTT, play around with the autopan, stuff like this. Yeah, a lot of reverb. The OTT basically, after the reverb, just smushes together the reverb and the sound, so you get a really textural sound. And I think this adds like nicely to the character of the build-up. I think it's not so dominant, but it guides the evolution of the sounds quite nicely. Now up here we get to the kick drum already. I think I'm going to show the kick drum more in the next part, but just one small thing. Up here there's these cool effects. That's basically the bass layer of the kick drum just playing very high notes. So, and putting a delay on it. This gives like this cool pew 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 laser effect, which I think sounds really cool. And then take out the delay because now the full kick drum is coming. So this is the first part of the drop. What's happening here is mainly the kick drum. So I'm going to show you how I made this one right now. The idea is basically I have 3 layers. One layer in Serum 2, which is like the main color layer. So it's kind of simple thing. I use 2 wavetables, one sine wavetable to get a clean punch and bass, and one more overtone rich wavetable to get like a color in the tail and nice grungy sounds. I put an envelope on the pitch of both of them and just made a normal kick drum like this. I have a tutorial already on my YouTube, a kind of old one, where I show like the basic idea on how to make a kick. So I'm not going to go too deep into it. Basically, just one thing, I put it here directly on the oscillators instead of the master tune, for example. This gives like a little bit more control, but still I modulate them in the same way, so they are phase coherent with each other. Yeah, there's also a little bit of noise added that just goes directly to the out. It's just some noise, honestly, if you turn this off. Okay, so it sounds really cool right now. I don't know why. I think it's because of all the effects on the processing chain in Ableton, but yeah, so this is just a nice layer. You can hear it brings like a lot of this nice high-end cool stuff. The effects also just some distortion. I put here's some symmetric, here's some asymmetric distortion. Modulate a little bit between them. Oh, the sun is coming out. What the fuck's happening? Berlin in winter? This shouldn't happen. Put a bass mono. That's it. I tried a phaser. Decided against it. This was the color layer. Then there's this bass layer, which I put like in a different. You see, like I do a bunch of distortion on the color layer, like some more asymmetric stuff here. A lot of playing around with this saturator also. I will show you in a second. Some OTT, more distortion. And then I have here this kind of clean sublayer. So this is basically the same one as you can see. Here's the same wavetable and the noise and everything. But I just turned all these things off that make it dirty, except the distortion. This is kind of nice because now I have a sound that's related to the color sound, but it's not the same one. It has a clean bass, and I can combine them later in this group. And I have one small sound here just for a short attack. It's just some sample pack thing that I just took like a very short excerpt. It's like, that's like 20 milliseconds or something like this, just to get like some attack in the high frequency a little bit more. Honestly, can barely hear it, so whatever, maybe I didn't need it. Then I do some group processing. Basically, I keep the group processing kind of simple. If you compare it to this one on the color layer, there's just a medium curve saturate, like a little bit of EQing, taking out some mids, some low mids here, to make it a little bit more clean. And the saturator on the medium curve setting with the DC filter enabled. This also changes the sound, especially because we used some asymmetric distortion in there. There might be some DC offset happening. So this is something that you can think about using. Basically, just turn it on, see if it sounds better. If it doesn't, remove the DC like with a normal filter. After the distortion, because the thing is, this happens before the distortion, so that's why it makes a big difference on the sound actually, because you put a filter before the distortion. This creates like some, because the distortion is a non-linear effect, this will create like some bigger changes in the sound than putting it afterwards. And then some clipping, a little bit of gain staging, bass mono, and a tiny touch of EQ in the end. I try to EQ as little as possible after these two, because they really fatten up the sound and fatten up the dynamics. And if you EQ a lot after you do that, you reintroduce a lot of dynamics in the sound, because you take away some frequencies. So some parts are going to get quieter, some parts are going to get louder again, basically like this. So that's why I EQ like only a little bit afterwards. And that's basically the kick drum. The rest, what's happening about the kick drum is a lot of automation. So I already talked before about this saturator. It plays a kind of important role because I use these things down here. They are basically like some EQ boost thing. So I play around with this, and that gives like, as you can hear, different character to the sound. Here also I have a filter going on, which creates this nice bang sound. If you take out the lows before the distortion, the higher frequencies are obviously going to be more prominent and are going to be pushed up through the distortion. So this creates like the nice resonant fills of the kick drum. Okay, my CPU is dying. Fuck. So this is the second part of the drop, this kick switch. I think it's probably my favorite part from the track because the kick has like this really nice mechanical sound like in the bottom, and then there's this little sound on top that's like kind of, I don't know, industrial dubby or something like this. I just think it bangs so fucking hard. A little bit more about the kick, actually. You see I have a bunch of macros going on here that are also, they are linked to different things. So this was linked to a phaser, which isn't doing anything. This is linked to the shape of this and stuff like this. But one of the important ones is actually this one here, the pitch speed, which I use to modulate the speed of the envelope that affects the pitch. And this changes like the punchiness character of the sound. So if you make the pitch envelope faster, you get a less punchy sound that's more subby. And if you make it slower, which means a lower frequency, you get more punchy, a little bit less subby sound. And because I have this little pitch control on both layers, if you move them relative to each other, you actually create some phasing, which can sound really nice and give like a lot of character to the sound if you then put it through all the processing and stuff. So that's basically what's happening here. As you can see, I like to have all my automations in parallel. This is just so I can see like just very clearly at one glance like where things are happening and which things are happening. It's a little bit annoying that Serum 2 has this bug for me that the name of the macros at some point delete themselves. So you see I named them like very nicely. But now here they're just called macro blah blah blah. But anyway, macro 3 is the one I'm talking about. This is the punchy version of the kick with the low frequency, so slow pitching. And then here it goes to the faster one. And this creates like a nice change in the texture, and especially if you combine it with the other one, that's still a little bit punchy. You see I didn't pull up the macro 3 as much on this one, so that's why there's some phasing, but that's okay because it sounds cool. So you still have the punchy sub, but you have the nice, very constant layer of the color on top. And I think this creates like a really nice interplay of the sounds and creates this sort of mechanical, like floating sort of vibe kick, whatever. Yeah, I think this, I really like this kick sound. And the other thing I like in this point is this sound right here. It's like a little bit of a dubby industrial sound. I'm vibing too hard. How I created this is I took this sample of XF trombone Simbasso 0202A1. Sounds like this, and I put some effects on it, mainly like a EQ and a pitch shifter. Without it sounds like this. Okay. There's the automation on the pitch shifter, which actually makes pitch down a little bit. And I recorded this, and I put a bunch of processing. So this is without the processing. And I took just the tail of the delay, which has like a nice left-right thing going on, and I put again a vocoder, more vocoder, and an overdrive basically. And then it sounds like this. Kind of cool. I warped it. I pitched it down 12 semitones. And I warped it around or something. I don't quite remember, to be honest. You can also see here, like I chopped it up and I think I reconsolidated it. And I put these vocoders. So I already explained what happens if you set it to noise, external. If you set it to modulator, what happens is the sound is being modulated by itself. And this is kind of nice because you bring out the sort of harmonic characteristics of the sound even more. You can hear like without these two, and I'm doing it twice with some different settings. It's going through a lot of distortion, so it's a little bit nasty right now, but if you do this, you get like more of the tonal identity of the sound, I would say. This can be really nice with to play with also. If you want, like maybe I can do more of a tutorial on the vocoder because I'm using it a lot recently and it's actually super fascinating. You can do so many things with it, get really interesting sounds out of it. Especially if you combine it with some pitch things and stuff like this. Yeah, that's basically this part. Let's continue on. Okay, sorry, my CPU is dying, so if you want to listen to this, you have to listen to the actual track. Just one thing, I'm playing this right here. This comes from the automation on the saturator. Like turn the bass all the way up, select like a frequency, turn the depth down, then you get this sound which my computer cannot play right now. Okay, so let's continue with the breakdown maybe. Okay, so this is about the breakdown. It's a big contrast, I would say, to the really intense drop, but I really like the vibe of this breakdown. It's like super dreamy, takes you like on a small little journey, and then we get to the build up, and from there like we go back into the drop then later. So here there's some things going on. Firstly, it's this sound which caused me like I now realize this caused a lot of trouble with the CPU, so I froze it now. Sounds like this. So it's a really cool sound, like a sort of screechy sound. It's just two saw waves, really simple, and one with a bit of unison detune, and I put this on the pitch also. So there's this little pitch effect going like up and then down that makes it like the weep, weep, weep. I think actually the problem for the CPU is the unison that's happening here. I think my computer doesn't like Serum 2 with a lot of unison. So, and then I put a reverb, large reverb, and then the multiband compressor, which acts a little bit like the OTT, what I described before. You have the reverb and then the compressor, so the compressor like really smushes the sound and the reverb together, creates a big textural sound. Okay, so now I'm gonna freeze this Serum 2 and show you the rest. I put it like in a group now, all the other effects, so I can freeze the Serum by itself and still play around with the other effects. Also, I had to change the return track because it's being sent into the reverb. With the vocoder, sounds like this. You can hear the wee. That's from the pitch automation I put in the Serum 2, so it goes wee, up, down. And yeah, without the vocoder, really noisy, nasty. And the trick is actually I put down the bandwidth of these bandpass filters that I described earlier, so you get even a more fine like spectral resemblance, but you get a lot of gaps in between. So this can sound nice with noisy stuff, but it can sound kind of weird and thin. You hear like it brings in these like resonant sounds, like a sort of comb filter effect, which is kind of nice. Yeah, as I said, I use this to retain some of the characteristics of the sound, like the tonal characteristics, but just make it a little bit like less dirty. And yeah, that's basically this sound that was causing all the problem, I think. Okay, so yeah. So apart from this sound, there's some other things going on. You already know these two friends from the beginning. So they do some more stuff here. So I'm pitching them around a little bit more. So this +10, for example, +12, +7, and so on, +15, 14, 0, 0. And this way you get like a nice little extra melody. Yeah. And there's also this one here. So that's the dubby sound. But instead of putting it through the chain with the vocoders, I now put it in the group with the synths where there's these resonators. So now it gets like a nice harmonic tonal character. Also, these I switch around the dry-wet of these resonators. That's what this macro is for. Like it's mapped to be 100% on this one or 100% on this one and 0 on the other one. And I basically change around with them to get like in the different sections a different color of resonator. Next thing is there's this bass line. That's basically just ascending throughout the break, which is kind of nice because it comes from the depth and then takes you a little bit up. And it's just a basically two sine waves, one a little bit warped, and the sub going into an overdrive OTT to bring out more of the mid and high frequencies of this sound. Hold it. And again, yeah, here you see I automate the dry wet of the overdrive to bring it in slowly. I automate the filter to bring it in slowly. Again, automation is nice. It's a pretty simple track, to be honest, like not so many things going on, but I think the key about this track are the automations, the way the sounds are being guided and modulated throughout the track. There are not so many sounds, but I think they evolve in a very nice way. So yeah, and here's also the vocal. Okay, let's go to the build-up. This build-up, same as the one before, basically just the idea is to prepare everything for the drop. Some elements go away, just like this bass. I automate here also the release, so right here the notes don't clash, but here the notes are being held. And then I put like a little automation on the transpose. So it's being held and then pitched up. This is like a nice little extra effect. I have this vocal here that's kind of repeating, going faster, and this way also creating a build-up effect. Again, remember it's being modulated from here also. And a bunch of modulation automation going on. There's also a little bit, some more drums. Nice little breakbeat thing, whatever. This you already know, it's the same as in the first part, basically the effects to rise. Also interesting, the autopan. And here there's a little break before the drop, and the kick is also being introduced to give like a little bit of context. This way we progress nicely from the breakdown so kind of the key actually is a lot of the sounds are being held from the breakdown and they slowly fade out. In this way, you get the nice transition. They all slowly die down in the build-up, and then the kick can come. And then so this drop is actually interesting because it is not so energetic, because I take some of the synths from the breakdown and actually use them here as a main element. So I get this calm sort of vibe, but I put the hard energetic kick underneath. So I think this drop it's cool. Doesn't have so much power, but I like the vibe of it. Basically, it's the same things as before, the same kick drum and stuff like this. I also have this little drum added now. That gives like more drive and makes it a bit more interesting. And I have this copy of the synth. Here I just repeat the same progression as here. And yeah, just have some harder drums. And this guy is also there. That's the industrial dub from before. And yeah, there's also this snare sound again. I think it sounds so cool in there. It's like a little effect, like bloop, 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 kind of rising up. Prepares nicely for the kick switch here. And then after that we go into a little bridge and then the outro drop, which is kind of similar to the kick switch in the first part, but with a little bit different kick sounds. And it's just a driving sort of outro part. Okay, so yeah, what's happening here in the bridge, basically it's just to get a little bit of distance from all the streaminess and get more into the sort of industrial vibe. So I put like a little bridge here between the parts. One small interesting thing is I change here, you see like the vocoder, it's always playing chords, but here I put like a little melody in the source synth that's vocoding the vocal. So you get the little nice melody actually in the vocal here. So, okay, it sounds crazy like this, but actually with the in the context of the vocal and the vocoder, it sounds really nice, I think. Enjoy the sun while it's there. And honestly, that's about it for this track. So I'm just gonna play out the outro. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope I explained everything more or less clearly. If you have some questions, just put it in the comments or whatever. And maybe if you want me to go in depth on like one thing or another, also let me know. And maybe you will get a tutorial on it in 3 years or 4 years or whatever. But maybe I can also reply like quickly in the comments or stuff like this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was nice, and yeah, until the next time or whenever.